Hey guys, Payman here, part 2 of the 3-part series of how to create compelling presentations. In the last episode, I talked about what you need to do before you create your presentations. That was referring to brainstorming, defining your audience, the medium, and also how to create an outline. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to choose the right color for your presentation and to understand colors and also how to apply them to your presentations. And we're going to talk very briefly about how to develop your theme. Okay, so let's get started. When I talk about colors, I'm going to very briefly talk about a color wheel because that's going to allow me to show you the basics of color. Now, we're going to form a color wheel. We have red, and we have blue, and we have yellow. And by combining equal parts of these, you're able to form your secondary colors. These are your primary colors because all colors need to be combined in order to create additional colors. So these are necessary colors that you need. Your secondary colors, what you do is you take equal parts, you combine them, and you end up with your secondary colors, such as your red and your blue, and you end up with violet. And then we have a little bit of a gap left, and to fill that gap, we want to combine a primary and a secondary color. So if we take the red and we take the violet and we combine it together, we're going to end up with a red-violet, and so forth. So that's actually filling up our color wheel. Now, in terms of colors, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that, but first I'm going to talk to you a little bit about developing your theme because themes are very important and integral part of where colors come into play. So what you don't end up with is the type of presentation I'm going to show you in a second. That is commonly used as your typical PowerPoint template where people just combine different colors and text together and then end up with something like this. What you really want to do is to create presentations from a color, from a theme aspect, and even the content that actually emotionally connect with your audience. Something such as this. So it's subtle, it's warm, and it's clean, and that's what we're going to talk about in the next episode, how to create slides such as this one. Now, let's go back a little bit to the colors, how to choose the right color scheme. Now, colors trigger different emotions, and so selection of the colors actually is something that you want to give a little bit of thought of. Who's your target audience, what is the purpose of the presentation, and so forth. So let's do just a very quick experiment here. These are a bunch of different color buckets, and so we have the beige. The beige color exudes a calming effect, and it's pretty much very often used in modern technology designs. Now, additionally, the blues. So we have a couple different types of blues. You look at the light blue, that's kind of like Twitter, your social network, and then we have the darker one, your Facebook, so it's very common on social media. Additionally, blues basically exude a kind of a loyalty and a calming effect. Now, additionally, talking about orange, orange actually is seen as a energetic, playful, and exudes an emotional response from a high energy perspective. This slide here is using a couple different colors. So you have the orange, you have the blue in the background, and then this slide here also has a nice balance of the colors. These are the type of things you want to do. Now, how to combine colors. Let's talk about that. There's 3 different ways that you can do that, and I'm going to go from the easiest to the medium and then a little bit more difficult. What I recommend for the beginners is to stick with monochrome color schemes and perhaps the second option I'm going to show you. So with the monochrome, what you have is one color and you add a little bit of black and a little bit of white, you end up with a range of colors. In this case, we have 5 different colors of the same. So there's different hues of the blue. And by doing that, it's very difficult to make mistakes because the colors just they're warm, they're subtle, and actually go with each other. So if you look at this example here, we're using the same colors and it's applied, and we're even have enough contrast. We had a darker blue and we have a lighter, and so we end up with the text on a very light blue or even white and going over darker. So you have nice contrast and also you have a subtle and warm feeling of the color perspective. The other one you can do is complementary colors. Now, complementary colors goes back to the color wheel. With the color wheel, you basically can draw a line and basically select opposite colors. So by selecting opposite colors, they actually complement each other. And so going with in this case, the purple, violet, and also the yellow, you end up with a slide such as this. So the violet is serving as the background, as the main color, and their secondary color here is the yellow. So it gives you a nice design. The other option, which I don't really recommend if you're a beginner or intermediate, is to use triad or tetradic colors. So with the triad colors, what you're doing is you form a triangle, 3 different points. And you can actually rotate that, but that allows you to select from 3 different complementary colors. With the tetradic, it's the same thing. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. You can actually rotate it around, and that allows you to select 4 different colors. But again, I really recommend you stick with the first 2 options unless you're more advanced or have a better understanding of the color schemes. So here's an example where we have the blue, the yellow, and the red. You would typically think they don't go together, but it's actually using the complementary color as a triad principle. Now, let's talk a little bit about how to choose an ideal color scheme. It kind of goes back to contrast. One of the high recommendations I make, and I did this in the first episode that on the Make Information Beautiful series about contrast. Contrast is very important, and many non-designers avoid that. And what you want to do in this case is we have an orange, which is serving as an accent color and has a high contrast over the grays. So that kind of works nicely. Additionally, another design principle is keep it simple. Simplicity is key in terms of colors. Keep it simple. Choose only 2, 3, maybe 4 colors maximum. Again, the monochrome was only 1 color, but different tints of it. But try to stick to only a few colors overall. And additionally, you want to use the 60-30-10 rule. So with the 60-30-10 rule, what you do is you take 60% of the area of your design, so let's say your slide or your image and so on, where you can put a tint over it, and you apply 60% of your colors approximately to that. That will be your primary color, and 30% to the secondary, and a 10% will be your accent color. That allows you to have a nice balance on the design that you're going to create. So there you have it. As far as the colors, let's talk about content very briefly. Now, one of the biggest mistakes, again, I talked about in the prior episodes, was about having too much content in your slides. It's very common, and I see it all the time. So in this slide, there's 8 different points, and they've been just compacted into one slide. There's very little empty space, very little white space, and what that does is it prevents the user from understanding what's being communicated to them. There's no limit of how many slides you should have in a presentation. And nobody told you it has to be 10 slides or 5 slides. So there's nothing wrong with breaking content into snackable, easy to digest pieces. So for example, that same slide of 8 points has been divided into this and to this one. So 2 slides for each. And we're using basically the endpoints of using visual cues with short text and forming the design here. You could have even gone and actually add additional slides. This doesn't have to be a 2-slide presentation. It could have been 4 to 6 slides. Each point could have its own slide in essence. So there you have it. This is the episode 2, how to choose the right color for your presentation. And I hope that you put it into use. The color principles is very important, and I highly recommend it before you actually sit down and create the content and put the design. You decide on the color selection you're going to have. In the next episode, I'm going to be talking about how to put all the different items that we've learned the last couple episodes together to create a compelling presentation. I'm going to actually show you an example of that. Thank you, guys.